It was a joke that ended a cultural revolution. The year is 1969. America is tearing itself apart. In the middle of this chaos, two brothers in matching tuxedos stand on a soundstage, holding guitars and smiling for the cameras. Their show has 30 million viewers. It has won an Emmy. It has changed television forever. Then comes the joke. On April 13, 1969, comedian David Steinberg walks onto the set to deliver a comedy sermon. The network has already rejected the bit. Tom Smothers ignores them. Steinberg delivers punchlines about a whale, a prophet, and a god who, in the joke, happens to be a woman. CBS executives lose their minds. Within days, the network pulls the plug. No warning. No explanation. The brothers don't even get to say goodbye. 50 years later, nobody remembers the joke. They remember what it cost. They were supposed to be harmless. When CBS signed the Smothers Brothers in 1967, they saw a safe bet. Two clean-cut kids in matching suits who sang folk songs, argued like children, and made old people chuckle. Perfect Sunday night entertainment. The network even scheduled them against Bonanza, the ratings juggernaut, figuring the show would die a quiet death. They were wrong. Tom and Dick Smothers grew up in California. Their father, a soldier, died in the final days of World War II, killed by friendly fire while a prisoner of war. Their mother struggled with alcoholism, drifting in and out of hospitals. The brothers learned early, the world doesn't protect you. You protect each other. Dick was the steady one. Grounded. Safe. The responsible older brother who kept things together. Tom was different. Tom was the dreamer, the firebrand, the one who couldn't let things slide. On stage, he played the fool. Off stage, he was the brains behind the rebellion. Their first show, in 1965, was a disaster. A sitcom that didn't work. Dead after one season. Then came the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. They walked into that studio in February 1967 with nothing to lose. They hired the youngest writing staff in television, average age 25. They booked musicians the network had never heard of. Buffalo Springfield, The Who, Jefferson Airplane. Bands that scared the suits in the boardroom. At first, the network didn't notice. But the audience did. Something strange happened. The young viewers weren't just watching. They were listening. And Tom Smothers had something to say. The show's ratings climbed. The phone calls from CBS executives increased. And in the middle of the night, a call came from the White House. The president was watching. The president was not laughing. Tom Smothers had a mission. He wanted Pete Seeger on his show. The folk singer had been blacklisted from network television for 17 years. Blacklisted for being a communist. For opposing the Vietnam War. For singing songs that made people think. In 1967, Tom called Seeger and offered him a slot. The network said no. Tom kept calling. The network said no again. He fought for months. He called every executive he could find. He made promises. He twisted arms. Finally, CBS relented. Seeger would appear on the season premiere of 1967. There was one condition. Seeger couldn't sing waist deep in the Big Muddy. The song was a metaphor. A story about a soldier in World War II who drowns because a stubborn commander won't turn back. Everyone knew what it meant. The big fool was Lyndon Johnson. The Big Muddy was Vietnam. On the night of the broadcast, Seeger delivered his song. But he changed the ending. He sang everything but the final verse, the verse that named the fool. Tom was furious. He went to the press. They're cowards, he told reporters. They're afraid of a song. CBS stood firm. They called Tom reckless. He called them hypocrites. The battle lines were drawn. 5 months later, Seeger returned to the show. This time, Tom made sure everything was in place. He warned the network. He threatened them. He told them that if they cut the song again, he'd walk. On February 25, 1968, Pete Seeger stood on the Smothers Brothers stage and sang waist deep in the Big Muddy from start to finish. The network didn't cut it. The country had changed. Walter Cronkite had just announced on the CBS Evening News that Vietnam was unwinnable. The war was turning public opinion. And Tom Smothers, the comedian in the tuxedo, had pushed the network further than anyone imagined possible. But Tom wasn't done. He had won. The song was heard. The network backed down. Tom Smothers was a hero to a generation. He had defeated the blacklist, the censors, the powers that be. And then he made a mistake. He thought he could do it again. 1968 was the year everything broke. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated. The Democratic National Convention erupted in chaos, police beating protesters in the streets, crowds screaming for change. The Smothers Brothers were right in the middle of it. They booked Harry Belafonte, another blacklisted singer. They filmed him performing a song called Don't Stop the Carnival, while images of the Chicago riots played behind him. The network cut the segment. Tom called the censors fascists. Then the Beatles called. In 1968, the biggest band in the world stopped performing live. They were tired, frustrated, and sick of screaming fans. But they wanted to reach their audience. So they made short films, promotional videos for two songs, Hey Jude and Revolution. They offered them to one television show. Not the Ed Sullivan Show. Not any of the network variety programs. They offered them to the Smothers Brothers. Suddenly, Tom and Dick were on the front page of every newspaper. The establishment loved it and hated it. George Harrison showed up unannounced on the set. He looked the network executives in the eye and told Tom, "Whether you can say it or not, keep trying to say it." By then, the brothers were beyond satire. They were running their own presidential candidate, comedian Pat Paulson, who stood alongside Robert Kennedy on the campaign trail. They were mocking Richard Nixon before he even won the election. They were attacking police brutality, racism, censorship, war, the entire American establishment. They had 30 million viewers every week. And they had no idea how much danger they were in. The network started putting restrictions on the show. No political jokes. No religious jokes. No jokes about the president. No jokes about the war. No jokes about sex. No jokes about anything that mattered. Tom kept telling jokes anyway. Behind closed doors, CBS was holding meetings. They were looking for a reason to cancel. And then Tom gave them one. His name was David Steinberg. He was a comedian, a writer, and a friend of the show. In 1968, he performed a sermonette on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. The bit was about Moses and the burning bush. It was satire, silly, playful, nothing truly offensive. But the network's switchboards lit up. Hundreds of angry letters. People screaming about blasphemy. Tom loved it. He brought Steinberg back for another sermon in 1969. The network warned him, no religion. No Moses. No prophets. Tom didn't listen. Steinberg walked onto the set. He delivered a routine about Jonah and the whale. The joke was that God, who appears as a voice from above, makes a mistake. God is, in fact, a woman. The network executives had already approved the script. But when they saw the performance, they panicked. They ordered the segment cut. Tom refused. He threatened to quit. He threatened to go public. He stood his ground. The network stood theirs. On April 4, 1969, CBS announced that the Smothers Brothers had failed to deliver their episodes on time for the censors to review. They cancelled the show. No warning. No negotiation. No final episode. The brothers didn't get to say goodbye to their audience. The network replaced them with Hee Haw, a country music variety show. Safe. Simple. Stupid. Everything the Smothers Brothers were not. Tom and Dick sued CBS for breach of contract. They spent 4 years in court. They won a settlement of $776,300, a fraction of what they'd lost. But Tom told reporters it wasn't about the money. "We had to do it," he said. "We had to fight back." He believed that if you let the powerful silence you, you deserve to be silent. What he didn't realize was that the fight had already cost him everything. The cancellation destroyed them. Not their career, they had other offers. They returned to television in 1975, on NBC. But it wasn't the same. The fire was gone. The fear was gone. They made safe jokes. Played it safe. Disappeared. Tom Smothers spent the rest of his life trying to explain what they had done. "We were just trying to say what needed to be said," he told audiences. "We weren't radicals. We weren't revolutionaries. We were comedians who cared about the truth." But the truth had cost them everything. In 2002, at a comedy festival, Tom accepted the Freedom of Speech Award. He stepped to the microphone and made a joke. "Many of you recognize the fact that we are not the original Smothers Brothers," he said. "I'm sure they would have loved to have been here to receive this award. But the original Smothers Brothers passed away in 1969. The audience laughed. Then they went silent. He was talking about himself. He was talking about the part of his soul that had died when the network pulled the plug. The part that believed you could change the world with a joke. The part that thought the truth would set you free. In 2023, Tom Smothers died. He was 86 years old. He spent his final decades bitter about what happened, proud of what he did, and haunted by what could have been. Dick Smothers, his brother, his partner, his other half, said, "Our relationship was like a good marriage. The longer we were together, the more we loved and respected one another. We were truly blessed. But the marriage was to a memory. The show is gone. The brothers are gone. The war they protested is long over. But the joke, the dangerous joke that took them off the air, still echoes. It echoes in every comedian who pushes the line. In every show that mocks power. In every writer who refuses to cut a line the network hates. They paid the price so others could speak freely. And in a way, that was the punchline all along. The last laugh belongs to them.